And we are live. Okay, so the first issue on the list, let me get it open, is the new issue I created last weekend to discuss if Drupal's theme system should be moved to a component-driven direction. And the idea was actually to try to build something that would be possible to get in for the minor releases of Drupal 8. But yeah, probably not everything would make it in. Does anyone have any thoughts about that? Anything to comment? Have you read the issue? No comments?
So that's the theme system components. Is that the same one as the bike shedding one?
Bike shedding one?
Yeah, it says like needs bike shed or something. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mark tagged it as bike shed. Or David, I'm sorry.
Needs more bike shed. Yeah. So that one's we talked about that one a little bit in our meeting, and Definer was mentioning, Daniel was mentioning that we same thing as I was mentioning in the meeting is that like render elements can be your components. It just needs a little bit of organization. So this really the organization that needs to be kind of sorted out. That's kind of how I see that one. But I've commented the last couple comments about that. Does that make sense? Like what I was mentioning, like the proposal for like if you wanted to maintain, if you have like a theme, an admin theme and a front end theme, if there's components that are being presented on both sides, that the theme that's going to be showing those components would be responsible for making changes to those components instead of trying to load like the admin theme onto the front end theme.
I'm trying to read your comment.
Okay. Crickets. So do you remember, Mike, that I was talking about that at the?
Yeah, from the summit. Yeah, I do remember. I'm catching up on your comments. I haven't read this issue in a couple days. That sounds about right. That was kind of the agreement that we came to, that the front end theme has to be the one handling the display of those admin components.
Yeah, and we can do like crazy alters the way that we're doing that for a couple components right now, where it's like trying to load in assets from the admin team. But it seems to me like that's just like a lot of effort for not much, like a kind of makes things more complicated. So that's kind of why I was proposing that. And Mark Drummond was mentioning right after that he really didn't want to have to redo all the work for toolbars, and it really isn't about redoing the work. A lot of the base styles should be coming from the actual module. So the toolbar module would be giving you the CSS styles and functional markup for it to work, and it's just a matter of allowing the theme of that's active at the current time to be styling that type of component. Now, it does mean that like you can't just reuse styles from your other stuff, but also that just makes things a little bit easier to understand. You're not just like, some things are coming from my admin theme and some things are coming from my front end theme when I'm on my admin theme, and trying to figure out where things are coming from would be a nightmare. This one just straightforward, like you're on your admin theme, therefore you're getting styles from your admin theme or from the module that provided them, just like it is in Drupal 7.
Yeah, that sounds like it makes sense.
Yeah, then we don't overcomplicate things with all this other stuff. But I do think there still needs to be quite a bit of organization.
I think Joel got cut it out.
Yeah, it looks like he's frozen.
Yeah. Joel, you
Go wake
cut
him
it
up.
out. Maybe he wakes up again. Okay. I think we should break this.
Because he was in the middle of a sentence.
Yes. Probably he still keeps talking. He doesn't realize that he's cut it out.
Frozen.
Okay, now you're back. You were
Thanks.
frozen for like a minute.
Nice.
But you were in the middle of a sentence.
I was in the middle of saying, I think that like we still need to organize the templates. We have them, the hierarchy is a little bit like all over the place, and naming things for components and some of the other stuff around the components is not done. But I think we have a framework in. Oh Jesus, I'm gone again.
No, you're there.
Oh, that's weird because it says I'm not even connected to the internet. Weird.
You're clearly not at your usual coffee shop.
Nope. I'm at home. So yeah, it would be nice to formalize some of our component or some of our render elements as like a component library of sorts. Some kind of like either naming render elements to components, or we could formalize them or make a whole bunch of better templates for specific things. There's lots of things we can kind of make improvements there. It's just that I think we have a framework for it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel on that part. So that's a suggestion.
So, quick question. Would the components be a thin wrapper around the render array, or would the component be the render array?
It would be it. It would be the render element. The render array is loosey-goosey, whatever you put in there, but if you do the type, like the hash type, you are getting things with it. You're getting defaults, like you're getting the stuff that whatever defined that type would be providing. So if I was toolbar, I would define a toolbar type, and that type of render element has the assets that it needs.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like defining a type component.
Oh no, no. Okay. That would be no.
That'd be too
it would be
generic.
type toolbar and the render element, or what? That's I guess the name for them. The render element is essentially the component, and all a render element is in like Drupal 7 lingo is like your hook element info, and it just allows you to like group a bunch of stuff onto the component. So I attach my CSS, my JavaScript, my theme, which is essentially my template. It would be nice if that was a little bit cleaner, but like it has all the pieces, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like the render elements are exactly what we need, but the bx/tx of using them for that purpose is a little bit crappy. So with the probably very small modifications, how people can create render elements, we could make it a lot easier. I mean, you probably need to do pretty many things right now to provide a render element. I wonder.
Yeah, we have to do hook theme and a hook or some kind of plugin. So that's kind of annoying. It would be nice if they were one thing where you would just maybe just make a render element and then just tell it what the template name is on there, and that would be the end of it.
Yeah, because I don't know if it's bad design or not that they could provide the hook theme implementation in the component itself.
Yeah, that would be a little bit nicer. There's not much to a hook theme implementation other than like defining some variables and what the hook is called. So I don't see why they can't be just one thing. But maybe we should experiment with that a little bit in our little sandbox theme render system.
Sandbox. So the reason hook theme variables existed was because of PHP. PHP is really bad at handling empty variables. It's also for preprocess functions and etc. that we can assume that these things exist. But yeah, I don't know if it's valid. I don't know if we need that anymore.
It would be cool if we could actually provide those variables on that element too, and then we have some defaults. We have the ability to pass in some default values. But yeah, I think if we can move some of that hook theme implementation onto the render elements, then the render elements become a little bit more useful.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. Because right now we're defining everything on the render element, so we also define the hook theme on the render element. And if we can define the hook theme in there too, then it's just more in one place and makes sense. You just say like, this render element uses this template name, but there's a bit more to that, so we'll have to play with it, I guess. But yeah, I think we have the structure. It just needs some, I don't know, massaging or something.
Oh yeah, a lot of massaging.
Mike, you have some. You're still working a little bit on that delete stuff.
Yeah, that just got pushed back to needs work for some them damn nitpicks you put in there. But yeah, I'll clean up the docs on that. And I just realized there is one. Peter suggested an optimization, which I was completely forgetting how the code was handling it. So I said it wouldn't work, but he's right that it will. So I can put that in. It's kind of micro optimizing, but whatever.
Okay. And I haven't looked at the code on that one in depth too much yet, but do we have did somebody or did you put in a mechanism for making that extend, like making that easy to override or extend or anything?
Well, sort of. I did the poor man's version, which is there's a settings PHP option where you can just list them out in an array in settings PHP, and if those exist, it pulls those in. If it doesn't, it uses our defaults. And I was going to do a follow-up with replacing it with a proper service or a service collection, I guess, technically.
That should be reasonable. I'll look at the implementation so far and just kind of follow up on that one.
Okay.
That's one of the more important ones we want to try to get in.
Yeah, that one's going to be a big hole if we ship with that one.
Yeah. But that sounds like a reasonable first crack at that, anyways.
Yeah,
it gives us anyways.
Yeah, it gives us an option to configure it. I mean, my concern is that you have 2 or 3 themes or modules that need to whitelist things, and they end up stepping on each other's toes. But it's up to the site builder to kind of merge all of those various whitelist additions in their settings PHP. So it's not.
And they can put those settings into like the module too, I would assume.
Well, it has to go in settings PHP, so it's going to be one per site, pretty much. So,
okay. So like if I was a module and I needed to whitelist some certain XYZ thing, I couldn't do that right now.
you can't do it programmatically, correct? If we do it as a service collection, you would. You just register a service that, you know, just kind of like our access permissions has a what is it? Permit, deny, neutral, return value, and the service collection would just loop through all of the services that are defined for that. But for now, it's going to be a module. Just it'll be documentation that says, you know, add these to, you know, something similar to this in your settings PHP file, making sure to include anybody else's if there's already a setting for this in settings PHP.
Okay.
It's not pretty, but it
So we
works.
have both. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's on my list of things to do with the RC stuff. The components design, driven design, just didn't want to jump ahead actually. Sander, did you have anything to mention on, like, have you read on any of the component stuff?
I went to John's session in LA about the components, but I haven't been following up on the discussion about the theme system right now. So it's kind of new, but it seems really interesting. But it feels really like, is there a sandbox already that does some of the that shows some of the work, or is it just basic ideas right now?
Ideas. We're playing with a sandbox. We haven't put any code to it. Well, a little bit, but the way that it works in Drupal 8, like right now, those ideas should be somewhat doable. Maybe hard to use, but it should be definitely doable. If you need to make components, you can make them as render elements. That's the idea I'm trying to push, and Daniel and Wim were mentioning as well.
Mm-hmm. It's like kind of it's really interesting because it's kind of like the idea that I feel like that Wim and Nod they have been pushing forward as well, like with the entire JavaScript thing, because the JavaScript is also now like depending on the libraries. So I also feel like we could really do it, because like we're only loading something when we need it, and this is also a step towards that.
Yeah, every component, unless you actually render that component, it won't be loaded onto the page. So you basically have to print that component somewhere, and as soon as you print that render array thing, it has all the attachments attached to it, and those get aggregated with your CSS and JavaScript, and yeah, it's magic after that.
Yeah. The only problem, or like something that I would like extending components, or would something like that be possible?
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah. So well, the way that we have it right now, we any template, any hook theme implementation can be overridden by just copy and pasting that template into your theme. The other one is the CSS and JavaScript, and that can be replaced with library alters, library override, and library alter, and all that stuff. Because it would be defined on a library, so you define your JavaScript and CSS on a library and attach that, and then you can do your library override. I think the CSS override still works too, so if it was not using libraries, it would still allow you to do that. A bit of disassociation, but like there's the YAML files for overriding the CSS and JavaScript, and there's the and there's the copy pasting the template for making template markup changes and stuff. And then pre-process on top of that, you can do that in your theme as well. So.
Because my only, like, if I would work with like components, because it's something that I've been doing in like kind of like with Panda as well, kind of like structuring it in my Panda team. But then I would if such a system would exist, then I would like my components to be like together. So like the JavaScript and the CSS, and like where I define which CSS and JavaScript to use, and have that like in one folder.
Yeah, we were even thinking of if we could define our components, and I think David was mentioning this one. Like you could have like your components defined in one giant YAML file, essentially. So you could say, these are my component definitions, and then you'd have the template, you'd have the name of the template, you'd have the name of your CSS files or JavaScript files relative, and then it would be named XYZ component, and then that way you could have it all kind of encapsulated into each other. But the structure on that could be improved, and that's just an idea. But
Yeah, 'cause yeah, I would structure that like each component separately, sort of like saying like treat a component like a module that has like a separate file where it's defined what it can do. Because otherwise, you'd end up with one giant file. Because if I were to look right now at like semantic UI and see what kind of components they have, it's like they have buttons, container, divider, flag, header, icon, image. They have cards, comments. If you were to put all of those components in one file, that would be like
get out of hand.
You would like organize them, because if you're going alphabetically adding one, it's like. But like a system where you have.
I'm cutting out one of the two.
When you have like a separate folder that says like components, and then in there you have like let's say a card, and you have a card template and the CSS and the JavaScript for a card. Something like that could work. And then you'd say like, okay, I want a card now, and you add some variables, and it renders a card. I feel like everyone's gone again. Oops.
No. I just had like my work just exploded behind. I was just like a RC channel going blah 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 blah, like fuck.
I don't know. Well, Joel said like robot.
No, you are not.
Is Joel still there?
Joel is figuring out something.
Yes.
Okay.
What are you figuring out?
Sorry, I'm late. Do we have an agenda for today, or do we have the agenda document and stuff?
Yes, we have.
The agenda is on IRC. I'll post it again.
Alright, sweet. There we go. There's the.
We were just talking about the Joel was explaining the component. The first issue is about discuss the theme system, whether the theme system should be component driven, and he was explaining that. Yeah, he was explaining how it works, like how it would work, kind of like what the sandbox contains right now, but like. I was just saying that I wouldn't like the components to be like one file, because when I look at like my libraries file right now, it gets crazy, because you end up with one giant file with so much.
I'm so let me just see the agenda before I went to talk. Oh shit. Well, I think basically that what we need to, I mean, we're not going to get component driven yet. I think that's a next step out in the future. To be honest, I think there's a lot of things that we maybe, instead of going into like, okay, we could do all this stuff, try to figure out, there's a lot of things when you inherit, and we have a lot of like, the small box that comes in when you begin to use stable. For example, I found a bunch of little issues, so there's a lot of cleanup work. Maybe we should postpone the whole component-driven discussion a little bit. I know that's unambitious, but I'm thinking of the reality of we have a cleanup work for release for our next release candidate, and we have two themes we need to figure out, and we have classy and stable, and the inheritance from them, and then all the CSS and library shit they all get from each other. So there's loads of those things. Anyways, that's just my thingy on that. So maybe think we're a little bit premature, but I won't keep people away from talking about it.
I would agree that like right now a lot has changed, like libraries and all that kind of stuff, and like trying to do 8.1 component driven is very ambitious. Or maybe we could do it like it's very ambitious to like make 8.1 component driven. I think it would be realistic to like when Nod was trying to do the JavaScript thing, it also got postponed to 9.0 to like, load the JavaScript and stuff like only when you need it, and like make Drupal figure it out when it needs something, like that kind of stuff, I imagine. So I think it's really ambitious to push this forward to 8.1.
Yeah. Yeah, so the plan is not 8.1, but it's maybe closer to 8.3 or 8.4.
It's, yeah. I've been playing around now for the last, like, since Wednesday, just been trying to figure out what's all the things I would ask about in the theme layer, and there's so many undocumented things right now, and so many things that people have no idea about how to do, and we need to push them the right way in many. We also need to figure out how do we build all this stuff, because basically all we've done so far is we've converted, Bardic, we've converted 7, and then there's a few sites out there who built Drupal 8 sites, but they have built on all of the knowledge that they had from Drupal 7, and a lot of that involved like object preprocessors and all kinds of things. So there's, yeah. Anyways, if somebody want to work with that and think in components, I think we need a meta document first that tries to explain what's the win in for this. And
this is blocking a major meta.
The what?
This is blocking a major meta issue.
Yeah.
That's why it is important.
Yeah.
Or it is a suggested solution for major issue.
The thing is, design-driven design components. And that goes all the way back to Jacin's blog post 3 years ago, where she talked about that whole idea of having it. I think it's very. I would really like to see some real examples of, especially in the world of Drupal, where it actually would make stuff easier. We've been working in one very specific ways for years. You have a node, you theme that node, then you have a view, you theme that view, then you put it in the block, and you put it in the region, and do all these things, and you shake them around. Anyway, so, yeah. But I'm not qualified to really have an opinion on it as well, so.
So, it would be nice to actually take some component libraries from the wild and try to kind of wrap them up in something that Drupal could use. Just as an experiment anyways, not something that's like we need to put in the issue queue, but something we could play with. So is there any good examples of component libraries that you would suggest like taking to experiment with? Have you used a component library before or seen them out in the wild?
You mean like a framework? Like
not a framework for it, but just more like almost like a component UI library that other like do Bootstrap or something like that. But
semantic UI. Semantic-UI.com is like a user interface that has all components. And it has like elements, views, modules. It's kind of cool.
Semantic-UI.com?
Yeah, I'll put it in where is it?
Oh shit! So, fuck! I gotta run in 5 minutes again because I have the daughter and stuff. But I just jumped. I just wanted to figure out who's gonna be at that camp and if we have a plan. I'm gonna be in there on Wednesday. Because just because I have the daughter coming in 5 minutes, just all the time.
I'll be there on Wednesday
Um,
as well. And so is Larry. I think Larry's coming earlier.
Yeah, I'm coming there.
okay, cool. All right. It could be interesting to sit down there at some point and talk about this. If there's somebody else who had experiences with it. But, yeah. Anyways, is there anything that people want to have me to look at right away at this point? If there's not, I'm gonna jump over again because I need to like make dinner and stuff.
There's nothing rushed to look at, but like just make sure that look at those classy stuff that we still need to move across. That's probably the only thing.
Yeah, and I've been working
Talk
on
to
it
David about that.
from Stable, and we definitely have issues with the amount of CSS that it imports, which makes like little to no sense. It's at least not the idea of the experience I was expecting by using Stable. So we have still a lot of CSS that just CSS files. Of course, you can reset them, but I'm thinking if we can like try to clean that up somehow. But I'm gonna file an issue on. Yeah. Anyways, I gotta split again. So, but Joel, and now I see you in 4 or 5 days, and yeah, else people at the interwebs and YouTube. All right, I'm running.
Okay.
Bye, boys.
Ciao.
Yeah.
See ya.
All
So
right.
yeah, Emma disappeared on us too, I think, or she may come back. I'm not sure. So yeah, I would like to. I'll look at that semantic one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really
I just wanted something to play with. Like I can grab a bunch of markup and styles and CSS and essentially just like make up something to work for like a component type thing that we can play with in the render sandbox.
yeah.
And you can try to like mix and match, like, oh, maybe I can put like one component in this folder and then give it the assets it needs, and then somehow figure out a way to load them in Drupal.
Yeah, I just like,
And maybe I'll just like map them to what we have in Drupal already, but like get rid of the grossness that we have right now with all the different places you have to put things, and just see if I can kind of clean that up, like without messing up what Drupal's doing right now. That way we can have at least a module that could try to do that kind of thing.
it's,
Or
yeah,
fail.
it's like you can with the components you can do like I think it's like it would be really interesting, but yeah, it's a very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting, but just like, because if you work with like sort of the pattern lab, you can have like atoms, molecules, organisms. I don't know if you experienced with that.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, because then you could have like, I don't know, even make those components like available in the UI.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing actually is what Morton's trying to push for too in a number of different ways. He's been kind of experimenting with like what we can do in the UI to provide those components. So if it's like, oh, this component takes this type of variable, we have this type of variable, so we have these type of components that are available to use with that type of variable, but they can get out of hand pretty quick too. But at least like it's like, okay, cool, I have like one variable I can pass to it. What are all the templates can use this type of variable? But yeah, or you have to define them like as a list of like just kind of like the way we have for fields, where you can choose the formatters. It would be very similar to that idea. He was experimenting with that at Barcelona, like discussing different ideas where you have a drop down of different component choices, just like you would with fields, but in the manage display type area or in the blocks display area.
Mm.
We have some of these pieces in Drupal already. It's just a matter of like kind of
Yeah.
make them less loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
Or just make something in a contrib that helps kind of push these ideas along.
There was something in 7, right?
Well, we had fields in 7. So if you wanted to, at the field level, choose your markup at least, you had that opportunity. You didn't have any like assets along with it, but you had that. And panels and panels and the style plugins that Panels has allows you to have a little bit better control over certain, like style plugins actually have like CSS and assets attached to them too, so they're kind of like components in a way as well.
Alright. Yeah, I've seen something, but I can't really remember. I can look it up. Anyway, it's a really interesting idea. It's just it just feels like a whole new way of working.
Yes.
But
I have to wrap your head around it a little bit. I know I have to.
yeah, it's like so it's kind of like from 7 to 8 is a major step, and so then we integrate in like a minor release. Again, a completely new set of things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and we don't want to add another layer onto our system. We just want, so if we add another layer, I really would like to make sure that we also remove a layer. So it's like, okay, if we're going to add this component system, that means we have to kill this other system. Like that's the way I want to look at this. I don't want to be adding extra layers onto this because it just makes it more complex. So if we can get rid of like the theme system and leave the render system and let render system deal with it all, or the other way around, then I would be a little bit happier, and I can introduce like the components on top of this, or how it's organized is done with components or something like that. But like, I don't want to add this whole idea of components and component libraries onto what we already have as another programming thing that we're adding on there. So I don't know. I'd rather horse trade. It's like, okay, if we get this, we have to delete this other thing.
Yeah, we can deprecate it, but we can't remove it.
Yeah. Don't use this old way of doing things. Deprecate the whole theme system.
Deprecate it.
Yeah.
And
Use theme
remove
system
all the
2.0.
We create Drupal 8.3 and then we deprecate everything.
Yeah, then we have to make Drupal 9.
Yeah, as soon as we do.
It's really. If you have a sandbox, could you like edit to the notes as well, or like to the notes
Sure.
or the group chat, so I can have a look? Because I would like to. I'd love to play around with that and see if I can like also do something like.
We have an awesome sandbox that's named. We have a. Laurie made an awesome name for an actual project called Sandbox.
I thought
It's so confusing.
I always heard the hardest things in programming were like cache validation and naming things, but we're so good at naming.
Yeah.
We have the best names ever: vanilla, pistachio, kittens, pandas.
Yes.
So good at naming things.
All things. So yeah, we got Pistachio's got a logo on there. I just made up a logo. It's not that great, but you can. The Illustrator's file's up there, so if you want to play with it,
Oh, I thought it was cool. So
Put some Drupal eyes on it, or I don't know.
okay, maybe. Not everything is Drupal though. Like
Yeah.
we can.
This is example. Pistachios are just like the example theme, so just there for that. But I added to the agenda. It's trying to log me out.
Okay, cool. I see if I can have a look and have a play with it. And if you're meeting with Laurie and Morton again in that camp, yeah, you can ping me. If you make
Okay.
like a Google, like David posted the Google Drive document in the issue queue. If you could kind of like make a report or something and add that to the issue queue, so I can follow up.
Sure.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
This sandbox thing here is like at the moment most of it's around the render API and making sure that we don't have render arrays. So that's kind of like the biggest thing that we're doing with that sandbox. But we could also probably look at other things as well. Same vein. But
Alright,
yeah, so
yeah,
just to make the renderable objects that were one in Drupal 9 to try to experiment and get a head start on that.
All right, cool.
And whatever else Larry wants to do with it. Says.
Yeah, remove preprocess function and remove all the other things.
Yeah, all preprocess functions gone.
Yeah.
Some kind of event system replace it or something.
I think the first component.
Object more.
Right?
What's that?
The first component we should create is a kitten.
Yeah, kitten component. It has a per function.
Have you seen the new theme engine in Drupal core?
Which one?
The Nyan theme engine.
Which one?
Sandra, have you seen it?
Nyan
Cat theme engine.
Theme engine? Cat theme engine?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
What is cat theme engine?
It's
The Nyan Cat.
Nice.
Have you seen that before?
Yeah?
I posted the link.
Oh. Redirecting you. What?
Handles integration of Nyan Cat templates.
Because testing is important.
It's pretty awesome. It's more secure than apparently it's more secure than the PHP template engine.
Brilliant.
It's a little bit limited functionality though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it doesn't have like for loops or anything. You can't even access arrays. You can only access like variables.
Genius.
But it has support for lazy rendering and auto escape.
All right, great.
Yeah, it's the best shit ever.
Nice.
So I think we are. I don't know if we want to talk about anything else. I think we've pretty much done. At least I don't want to talk about anything anymore.
All right. No more issues to talk about. There are a bunch of.
No, it's good to have. Good to have a little bit relaxed time.
All right.
Functions. Theme functions.
Theme function conversions.
There's 2 green patches. We need them RTBC.
Which ones?
Oh yeah, I can review them for you, Joel.
Sweet, thanks. That's it.
Oh,
All right.
you need someone to review the other one because I was working on it too.
Which one?
This one.
They're both on the doc.
I
But
posted a link just to make it easy.
Okay, I'll take a look at that after our call.
Okay.
Well, the table functions. Woohoo!
Yeah, gross.
We won't do a table component. No table component.
One of yeah, no table component. Or new one, maybe. Reinvent it.
The new table.
Table 2.0.
Okay.
I'll take a look at the at that one, and then I'll play with have a look at the sandbox, and yeah, keep me updated on that. That'd be cool.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I gotta get
Bye.
going to work. See you guys.